Humanity has long been trapped in an artificial system of control, built upon the illusion of ownership, scarcity, and economic enslavement. The natural world, abundant and self-sustaining, has been carved up into territories, markets, and resources to be hoarded, sold, and fought over, not for the benefit of all, but for the consolidation of power in the hands of the few. This system, often disguised as civilization, progress, or economic development, is in reality a sophisticated form of slavery that most people do not even recognize. This essay will expose the mechanisms of this enslavement, explain how humanity has been conditioned to accept it, and explore the only viable path to true freedom, the dissolution of artificial control structures and the return to a natural, sovereign way of life. The Great Illusion: Ownership and Control. At the core of humanity's enslavement is the belief in ownership, the idea that land, water, air, and even human labor can be possessed, divided, and controlled. This belief is not natural. It is an imposed construct, a legal fiction designed to justify hierarchy and exploitation. In reality, no individual, corporation, or government can truly own a part of the earth. The land existed long before humans, and it will exist long after them. To carve it into nations, private properties, and economic zones is an absurdity, akin to drawing lines in the ocean and claiming dominion over the waves. Yet this illusion of ownership is upheld by force, military power, police enforcement, and legal frameworks that punish those who reject it. The result? Humanity has been severed from its natural inheritance. People are born into a world where land is monopolized, resources are privatized, and survival is contingent upon submission to economic servitude. The masses work not to sustain themselves, but to sustain the machine that exploits them. The economic psyop, the engine of enslavement. The next layer of the illusion is the economic system, a grand deception that convinces people that wealth is earned through labor, trade, and competition. In reality, the system is rigged from the start. Artificial scarcity. There is enough land, food, water, and energy to sustain every human being, yet scarcity is deliberately manufactured to justify economic dependence. Food is wasted rather than freely distributed. Land is left barren while people remain homeless. Energy sources are suppressed in favor of costly, centralized industries. Debt and wage slavery. The vast majority of people spend their lives working jobs they despise, not for personal fulfillment, but for mere survival. The financial system ensures that no matter how hard one works, they remain trapped in debt, taxes, and expenses designed to keep them in perpetual servitude. Those who attempt to escape the system are either forced back into it or ostracized as outcasts. Endless growth and resource extraction. Governments and corporations justify the continued exploitation of nature by claiming it is necessary for economic growth. But what is growth? More consumption, more destruction, more artificial needs being created just to keep the system running. It is an infinite expansion on a finite planet, an inherently suicidal model. Distraction and division. To prevent people from realizing their enslavement, they are given distractions: consumerism, entertainment, political theatre, and ideological conflicts. Instead of uniting to reclaim their sovereignty, they fight over race, gender, class, and national identity, manufactured divisions designed to keep them blind to the true enemy. Why can't governments simply give everyone land and freedom? A rational society would recognize that each human being is born with an intrinsic right to a piece of land, access to resources, and self-sufficiency. If governments truly existed to serve the people, they would secure the land, infrastructure, and resources in a way that allows every family to live sustainably without reliance on centralized power. But they do not, and will not, because power thrives on dependency. If people had land, resources, and autonomy, they would have no need for rulers, banks, corporations, or institutions of control. The entire system of power relies on keeping people dependent, on jobs, on money, on government aid, on the illusion of external authority. The elite fear true self-sufficiency, the idea of a world where every individual or family has what they need to live freely is an existential threat to those who profit from centralized control. Governments do not exist to serve people. They exist to serve themselves and their corporate masters. The system is designed to perpetuate itself. Every law, every institution, every bureaucratic structure is created not to liberate, but to sustain the machine of control. Reform is an illusion. The very foundation of the system is the problem. Thus, the current world order will never willingly allow people to reclaim their freedom. It must be dismantled, not reformed, but abandoned entirely. The path to true freedom. Given this reality, how does humanity break free? The answer is not in revolution, which merely replaces one tyrant with another, but in walking away from the system altogether. 1. Reclaiming sovereignty. People must first recognize that they are not subjects of a government or economy. They are sovereign beings. Sovereignty begins with rejecting the authority of institutions that do not serve life. 2. Decentralization and localized living. The greatest threat to centralized control is decentralization. Communities must move away from dependence on national economies and build self-sustaining local networks, agriculture, energy and trade that exist independently of corporate and governmental influence. 3. Land restoration and communal living. Instead of waiting for governments to allocate land, people must reclaim and restore it themselves. The rise of homesteading, off-grid living, and cooperative land trusts represents the beginning of a movement back to natural harmony. 4. Rejecting consumerism and digital enslavement. Every purchase made within the system fuels its existence. Every moment spent in digital distraction strengthens its grip. True resistance is not through protest, but through non-participation. When people stop feeding the machine, it will wither. 5. Awakening the mind. The final and most critical step is to wake up, not just intellectually, but spiritually. The illusion is powerful because it is psychological. The greatest chains are not physical, but mental. The only way to break free is to see through the deception, to dissolve the conditioning, and to recognize that all external power is an illusion. The great choice before us. Humanity stands at a crossroads. The path of continued submission leads to further enslavement, deeper dependence on artificial systems, greater loss of autonomy, and the ultimate sacrifice of freedom for the illusion of security. The alternative is the path of self-liberation, rejecting the false world, reclaiming sovereignty, and restoring the natural balance that has always been our birthright. Most will choose comfort, compliance, and ignorance, but for those who see the truth, there is no turning back. The world they have been given is a lie. The only real question is, what will they do about it?